All right, let's take out our reading books. On the bright side, page 115. So the video yesterday from 110 to 114 got deleted, sorry, but we'll just go on. I figured you guys could have read that on your own, and that's so you got an idea. Hopefully you did read that and got an idea of what this is about. This little boy who is so determined to find what? Ball-bearing wheels. They're called ball-bearing wheels, wheels with little balls of steel in them. Why does he need ball-bearing wheels? What is he doing? Right, he's making a pushmobile for a race that they're having in the next week or so. And back then, that was something that the little boys loved to do. They would have these box carts and cars, and their friend would push them, and he just knew, if I have ball-bearing wheels, they go faster than regular wheels, and I need to find them from some baby carriage. And remember, he took Mrs. Clancy, the neighbor's baby, and baby carriage, and ran up the street with it. And the we don't hear this part, but we can understand that what happened was the mom comes out, "What are you doing with my baby? Why are you?" And the father was so upset because he realized what his son had done, and he's like, "I didn't really know that the baby was in there." But just a really cute story to start off. So Eddie is looking for these ball-bearing wheels, and there's a junk man that comes by with a cart. And he looks, but there's nothing in there, and he's a little bit disappointed. But now we're on page 115. "Oh, look, Eddie," offered Sam. "Maybe I can find some for you." Eddie had little hope that Sam could help. Ball-bearing wheels were still too new. Not many people would be selling a new baby carriage. Eddie was disappointed, but he felt certain that if he just kept on trying, somehow things would turn out right. Never give up, he told himself. He started for town. He walked up one street and down the other, looking in all the secondhand stores, but not one ball-bearing wheel could he find. As the day of the big race drew nearer and nearer, Eddie began to get discouraged. He kept reminding himself that he shouldn't give up. I know. Pause, because I want you to think about that. He got discouraged, but he reminded himself, nope, not giving up. And it just reminds me of David. David in the Bible, he often got discouraged, but so many times he would say, "But hope thou in God, hope thou in God. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up." He reminded himself of scripture and he prayed. So that reminds me, just like Eddie Rickenbacker was like, "No, I'm not going to give up. I know it's getting closer and closer and it's not looking good, but I'm not going to give up." It reminds me of David. And it reminds me of what we need to do and how we need to think and we need to be. And that's so important. That was certainly no way to become a winner. Not if you give up. You won't become a winner if you give up. It's kind of all conglomerating together. Jesse Owens, Jim Thorpe, George Washington Carver, Wright brothers, this story here, so much goodness to remind us. Finally, the day before the race arrived. Day before the race. Still nothing. Eddie went around to all the secondhand stores. Why are you doing that now? It's too late, Eddie. It's the day before. You're not gonna. He went around to all the secondhand stores once more. But it was no use. Not one baby carriage with ball-bearing wheels had come in since he first started looking. Late that afternoon, Eddie turned in at the gate of the Rickenbacker home. He was just going to be forced to put the same old wheels back on Mile a Minute Murphy. Suddenly, he heard Sam's voice calling, "Eddie! Eddie!" Eddie whirled about and ran toward the gate. "Did you get them?" he shouted as Sam pulled at the horse's reins. Sam's friendly smile was enough of a reply for Eddie. He was in the wagon with one big jump. There, at last, were two pairs of just the kind of ball-bearing wheels that Eddie had been looking for. The crowd gathered early at the racetrack the next day. I mean, hours before this race is when he got them. All of the brightly painted pushmobiles were there, ready to go. The drivers climbed into their places and picked up their steering ropes because they had ropes on the side that could steer the wheels. Then the pushers took their places behind. Eddie knew he had picked the fastest runner on his block for his pusher. He turned and winked at him now. Only the two of them knew the secret of the 4 ball-bearing wheels Mile-a-Minute Murphy was... Only the two of them knew the secret of the 4 ball-bearing wheels. Mile-a-Minute Murphy was all ready to go. The starter raised his arm. "Stay between your lines, boys," he shouted, "and don't try to trip the pushers. Now ready, set, go!" The crowd roared and the pushmobiles were off. Drivers and pushers called to each other through clouds of dust. Eddie held his steering rope tightly in his hands. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that several pushmobiles had piled up on top of each other. But Mile-a-Minute Murphy whizzed on with its ball-bearing wheels fairly flying. Just as Eddie had dreamed, Mile-a-Minute Murphy tore past the finish line with the other pushmobiles all trailing behind. And you can see the picture of the pushmobiles. Eddie jumped out of his soapbox and hugged his pusher. His friends came running up. They pounded Eddie and his pusher on their backs, shouting, "You've won! You've won!" Even the losers had good attitudes and were so excited for Eddie and his pusher. Eddie was grinning happily. Then he turned and pushed his way through the crowd to where his father was standing. "It was those ball-bearing wheels that did it, Father," he said. Mr. Rickenbacker laid his arm across Eddie's shoulder and chuckled. "Don't you think you should give half of the prize to Mrs. Clancy? After all, it was her baby carriage you used for a trial run." And that shows what perseverance can do. Perseverance, not giving up. What happened? Eddie got into that car and he made that pushmobile go, and he won the race. And now he is able to look at these great things that can come from not giving up, from believing that it still can happen. But look at the picture at the bottom, because that is a real picture of the real Eddie Rickenbacker. This was a true story. Eddie Rickenbacker himself was built for speed. When he grew up, he learned to fly. In World War I, he shot down more enemy planes than any other American flyer. The boy who wanted to be a winner became a man who helped his country to win a war. And if he hadn't had that resolve, that perseverance, that determination, I wonder if he would have been able to do those things. What a neat lesson, right? Isn't that exciting? Why did Eddie take Mrs. Clancy's baby carriage? He was noticing that her baby carriage was faster and easier to push. So he had to figure out why, and he got the answer. What made the new wheels better than the old wheels? Right, there were those little balls of steel that were inside that made it go faster. What was the name of Eddie's pushmobile? Mile-a-Minute Murphy, yes. How did Eddie show that he wasn't a quitter? He kept going and going back to the places, to secondhand stores, and asking people if they had ball bearing wheels, checking with Sam, having Sam check, all of that. So what do you think? Can you think of an item you use every day that could be made better? Draw a sketch of your idea. So think of something. Maybe it's a toaster. Maybe it's I know when I was younger, one of the things that we were told to try to do is to write a story about 100 years from now. And I remember writing a story saying, 100 years from now, my bed is just going to lift me up and like throw me into a chair that's going to wheel me into the bathroom, that's going to, have a place to brush my teeth. Kind of like a Jetsons. I don't know if you guys even know Jetsons. You should though. Theme idea. But that's kind of where I was going with that. So that's something that you can think of. Think of something that you use every day that could be made just a little bit better with some tweaking. And maybe you can come up with a whole new thing. Patent it though, don't forget, like Alexander Graham Bell and Thomas Edison. You got to make sure you get your patent on it. So draw a picture of it here, and I'd love to see them if you come up with some good ideas. All right, I'll see you in the next video.